We've got details of all these stories plus many more coming up in the next 60 minutes. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. You can join us with the views, comments and suggestions on any of our top stories this hour. Feel free to visit any of our social media pages on Facebook and on Twitter.
The news now in detail, and one person is in critical condition while 6 others sustained injuries after the collapse of a 3-story church building at Botiano in the Greater Accra region. George Queenan was at the scene and reports.
In less than 2 weeks, there have been multiple building collapses across the country. There's one recorded in Medina, another in Adenta, Tamale, and the latest being Botiano. And this is the Word in Action Church, located here at Botiano in Accra. And this very collapse occurred around 9 a.m. today. 7 persons were injured in the process. One in critical condition has been transferred to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and the other 6 were locally treated and have been discharged accordingly. NADMO officials have been here to assess the situation, and they are not happy about 10 of events.
There hasn't been an earthquake, there hasn't been a tremor, and then the building just collapsed. And we have experienced collapses in the past 1 week. So for now, we are saying that this is a security area. No, we don't want anybody tampering with evidence. So we have asked that no work should be done. There shouldn't be any excavation, only attempt to clear the debris, because the engineering council will need to pick samples for investigations.
Auntie Mamesi sells fried yam directly opposite the church building, and this morning she witnessed the church collapse.
I say I two tear gas. Aha ina ye hu she. Ye hu say aha ina ye tu ya start your bie dwane.
We were all running for our lives when we saw the building collapsing. I even fell down in the process.
By me sorry na me die me chi no na e dan no e be form slowly.
Some be boy ne fa nipa no ana ye yi nipa no chiro nipa dance ni gina ho I then jury go ni so ni to me nya hwe no oh top picture.
It was sad to see people trying to take videos and pictures instead of helping. This is a bad practice.
When you look at the church schedules, they meet on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays and Sundays. On the weekdays, they meet at 7 p.m. and on Sunday, it's 9 a.m. Imagine this collapse occurring in the evening today. Would have been very disastrous. Apart from the fact that concrete works are porous, the main cause for the collapse of this church building will be made known after investigations are through. We'll follow up and update you in our subsequent bulletins. George Queenan, TV3 News, Botiano, Accra.
Meanwhile, the news team has been speaking to the Engineering Council of Ghana, who were on the site to assess the extent of collapse. Wise Ametepe is the registrar of the council.
We've just seen that some columns don't have reinforcement in them. You can even watch. I'll show you. Look at this, the column there. The lower portion has reinforcement, but the top has no reinforcement. This is a poor work. This is just from physical. We haven't even tested the concrete strength. But from what you can see here, concrete work is very porous. It means poor work was done in the construction, and no supervision was done at the time of construction. This is what we want to, the council wants to avoid, to make sure when you award a contract or you bring a permit for approval, there should be follow-ups to make sure there's proper supervision. Good work is done. Otherwise, you don't continue at all. We can't accept buildings to be collapsing from here and there. Now that the rains have started, we already have 4. Why should we continue?
And this incident is the 4th in 7 days in the country. Let me give you a breakdown of these incidents across the country. So it first began on May 2, 2023, where a 3-story building collapsed at Adenta municipality. Then on May 5, another 3-story building also did collapse. And on May 7, a 6-story building at UDS City Campus in Tamale collapsed. And we understand that a committee has been set up to investigate this incident. Right. And then just today, a 3-story church building collapsed at Botiano. Let's now continue with the rest of our stories. And the Member of Parliament for Asante Achem North, Andy Apiakubi, will tomorrow meet the Special Prosecutor to answer some questions on an allegation of bribery. The MP had earlier alleged that a wealthy businessman attempted to bribe the majority to soften their stance on an appeal to remove the finance minister from office. In an interview, he said the businessman tried to offer the majority money to change their minds.
I want somebody, one person, or anybody associated with any such person who thinks that he can give money. Anybody. If I hear anybody working for any of such persons or working, I will come out with information that we are beyond the bribes. Our motivation is not the financial inducement. I'm sure we have sent this message to some people. They have sat upright. And I'm referring to situations of yesterday. Yeah. I am saying that we have sound enough warning to people who want to influence members of our coalition with materialism. It won't happen.
Away from that, the police constable who was shot and killed by his superior officer whilst on duty in Bibiani in the Western North region on Friday, May 5, has been laid to rest at Medina Cemetery near Accra. The Inspector General of Police, George Akufu-Dampare, was at the deceased family's house at Obofo, near Achimota to commiserate with the bereaved family.
A broken family, still in denial, trying to come to terms with the death of their relative. The Inspector General of Police, George Akufu-Dampare, together with other senior police officers, commiserated with the bereaved family. After a short ceremony, the remains of the deceased was sent to the Medina Cemetery for burial. The police constable is reported to have been returning from an operation last Friday when he was shot and killed by a superior officer in the Western North Regional Command. He was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. Meanwhile, the suspect has been placed in custody while investigations continue.
Emmanuel Kutin is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Security and Counter-Terrorism. He's joined us live on the phone. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. So another shooting incident involving the police, this time a senior officer shooting and killing his junior in the Western North region. What does the spate of shootings involving the police say about professionalism of that service?
Well, thank you for having me and good evening to your cherished listeners. My sincere condolences to the Gray family and Ghana as a whole, because this gentleman died in service to his country. But you have hit the nail on the head. If you look at the incidences of weapon handling within the police service over the last few weeks, it indeed calls into question the professionalism of the police as an institution. And you see, there's a problem we always talk about. And I'm happy the ex-president, John Mahama, made a theatric politics about it when he called on his party fellows to give him the opportunity to lead the country, and he will make sure once they are qualified and they are NDC members, they will be recruited into the service. This is the problem of the service. I think that the police as an institution has become the pudding of politicians, where they use it to get jobs for their boys and girls. And this is what we get. In Kumasi, just some few weeks ago, you realize what happened. And investigations are still ongoing, and then we have this on our hands. And unfortunately, we have another casualty. So it means that the police as an institution, as far as weapon handling is concerned, is at a crossroad, and which must be looked at independently. And this calls into mind the voices of conscience who are calling for an independent police commission. I think that the police cannot continue to investigate itself. And I also find it very problematic that the investigation into this very incident has not been concluded, and yet the victim has been buried. And from my investigations, some media men tried to cover it, and they were prevented by the IGP with the excuse that it was a private police barrier. I think in a democracy like ours, such behavior should never be encouraged, because if you look at criminal jurisprudence, the police only came out with a statement indicating what happened and that investigations were ongoing. So on what basis is the victim buried? And how is the police going to investigate itself? Who watches over the watchman? So I think that as a democracy, we must strengthen our laws, and the loud cry for an independent police commission is long overdue. And I use
Mr. Kutin, I get your point quite clearly, but beyond training and retraining, don't you think also that these servicemen should be oriented on how to exercise emotional intelligence? Because, I mean, you cited the issue of the Kumasi incident, for instance, a police officer shooting his supposed girlfriend, and what we're seeing happening just recently also. I mean, these are personal matters, and I would imagine that you would need some level of emotional intelligence to be able to restrain yourself under such circumstances.
When you recruit people who are not qualified in the name of party colors, what do you expect? If you talk to many senior police officers, they will tell you morale within the service, the professionalism has been thrown into the garbage because of the over-politicization of our security institutions, especially the police service. I think we need an audit, an overhaul of the service. Then we look at the numbers we have, the kind of training regime that they have undergone, and what kind of help we need to give to the service. As an institution, if you don't have some of these measures in place, you cannot grow, especially in a situation that we find ourselves, that everything is politics. And you know, the last time we spoke, I particularly call out the IGP and his autocratic nature. When you do that and you put boys on the street in the name of Dampari boys, and they take orders directly from you, you are breaking the professional orders of the service. And it's not a service one person can do it alone. You understand? So it has a problem that is embedded on leadership. And I think the police as an administration is suffering from one, leadership crisis, and any institution that has this kind of challenge will not be able to mechanize the other ingredients that make institutions function properly. And unfortunately, innocent people are losing their lives.
Mr. Kutin, I've got to say a big thank you to you. Thanks for joining us here on News 360.
Let's now go to the northern region, where all basic schools in the Kargo township were temporarily closed down by the District Education Directorate following an overnight security operation that resulted in the arrest of 4 suspects in connection with the recent murder of an elder of the Kargo Na Natuma, that's Isahaku Chora Chora. A cross-section of the youth on Monday, May 8, went on rampage, destroying property over the arrest of the suspects, who have since been remanded into prison custody. They've been charged on 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder and are to reappear on May 23. On April 7, Isahaku Chora Chora was murdered by unknown gunmen. This was after the Kargo Na Natuma selected him as Zuson Lana. He was allegedly trailed and shot dead by his assailants.
A reminder, you're still watching News 360. This is our major news bulletin. We're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. And it's getting hot ahead of the NDC's parliamentary elections. We'll take you live to Asawasi now, where Asawasi will be a constituency to keep an eye on when delegates of the National Democratic Congress go to the polls to elect who to represent the party in the 2024 parliamentary elections. Now, a young entrepreneur, Masawudu Mubarak, intends to unseat the incumbent MP, Muntaka Mubarak, who was represented constituent in parliament since 2005.
It is for many the safe seat for the National Democratic Congress in the Ashanti region. The NDC has made Asawasi its own, and since its creation in 2004, the constituency has remained loyal to the party. Its current representative in parliament, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, has for 18 years had little to worry about in terms of internal strife. In both 2015 and 2019, he went unopposed. But that has changed in the last few months because a young entrepreneur, Masawudu Mubarak, is fiercely contesting him. This is the man whose attempt to contest the MP in 2019 was thwarted by some elements in leadership. But not this time. The former branch youth organizer believes he has a great shot at toppling the five-time parliamentary candidate, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak.
The state of the party in the constituency is in shambles. There's loss of hope in the future for the many young people in the constituency. There's no sense of direction. We are bereft of opportunities to develop the people within the constituency. And so basically these are the reasons why I have decided to contest the sitting member of parliament for Asawasi. I largely believe that it is God who determines all these things, and I wouldn't be able to speak into the future. But I am very optimistic that I am winning this race.
He knows standing on his way is the former minority chief whip, who himself is not taking any chances.
They say elections are never over and it's over. But I can assure you that we are working very hard to make sure that this is just a minor challenge about primaries. The main is the 2024 election. We must retain Asawasi in a very decisive way.
Masawudu's decision to contest his familiar foe appears to have left the constituency executives sharply divided. There are those who have thrown their support behind Muntaka Mubarak. And then there are others like the Asawasi NDC constituency chairman, who is leading the Masawudu campaign and calling for change. With youth unemployment being a major issue in the constituency, some constituents are of the view the time to have people with fresh ideas to address their problem is now.
I won't stand here and discredit the efforts made by the incumbent. He's done his bit. But as time moves on, things change. We need somebody who understands the youth system and can fit in to be able to match the youth with opportunities to reduce the incidence of crime wave in the country. And that's why we are calling for change.
And then there are those like Usman, who basically want the incumbent retained.
When it comes to empowerment, Muntaka is the best because he has helped a lot. Even according to my calculations, within this year, those who he has helped to acquire their education at the tertiary, he helped almost 110 students to the tertiary. So why not? Why do we have to change him?
The two contestants say they would unite the party after the May 13 primaries to prepare for the main election in 2024.
It's one family, and at the end of the day, we need everyone on board to fight the bigger battle, which is the battle with the MPP.
We have a lot of work to do. It is not just about primaries. We have 2024 election to win. and all of us must be thinking about that.
The former minority chief whip has already lost his leadership role in parliament. As to whether this would affect his chances to represent the people of Asawasi for the 6th time remains for the delegates to decide. They would speak on May 13 and loudly too.
Here at Media General, we will bring you up-to-minute update of the Asawasi NDC primaries. Ibrahim Abubakar, Kumasi.
So do make a date with us for the NDC primaries, which will feature live on Media General's platforms. In other news, former Environment Minister Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng says he will never accept any ministerial position in the future. He says there are other ways he intends to serve Ghana, but not in the capacity as a Minister of State. He said this in the second part of the exclusive interview with Alfred Okansi.
Whatever that we do, we should learn to do things for ourselves. We cannot afford to import everything from toothpick to aircraft and hope that things will be better. We need to do things ourselves. I was talking about this foundry. You know, when we are constructing roads, look at the drainage covers and so on. These are very low-tech things, but they're all imported. And these are things that can be made locally if we had the right setup. These are the things that I'm talking about.
When you look back, Prof, if you were given the chance again, what would you change in this country?
Given the chance again, to do what?
To serve in an official capacity.
Never to be a minister.
Never to be a minister?
Yeah.
You would never want to be a minister again?
Yes.
Why?
Because I'm done with it.
You are done with it?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you want to serve this country in the capacity as a Minister of State?
I'm too old.
Do make a date with Ghana Tonight team because the second part of this interview will air at 10 p.m.
All right, Portia, let's know what you make of any of our top stories this hour. Go to any of our social media pages on Facebook and on Twitter. Share your comments with us, and we promise to share them with the rest of the world. Let's stay on one of our top stories tonight. And the Pensioner Bondholders Forum has expressed disappointment over government's disregard for its demand for immediate payment of coupons and principals for its members. The pensioners once again gathered at the premises of the Finance Ministry to press home their demands. We've been speaking to some of them. A reminder, you're still watching News 360, our major news bulletin for the day. We're still ahead in the bulletin. We've got the very latest in business. Right, good evening and welcome to the business news segment here on News 360. Let's begin with happenings on the banking industry, and President of the Ghana Association of Bankers, Johnny Wa, says the fortunes of the banking industry have significantly improved following the devastating impact of the domestic debt exchange program. Many banks performed poorly last year, with about 15 out of 21 recording losses as captured in their published financial statements, mainly due to the impact of the domestic debt exchange program. Now, speaking to the media at the sidelines of the third edition of the Money Summit organized by the Business and Financial Times newspaper, Johnny Wa assured customers there was no cause for concern.
The banks are obviously doing well, and from the results that we have seen, and those numbers are still being calibrated. We have bounced back, and as I said, there's liquidity within the banking space. Banks are doing their financial intermediation. Of course, the economy is not in the best place at the moment. We are all hoping that the IMF program comes in time so that the confidence within the economy will be vibrant, and we can ride on the back of that to do a lot more. But please feel free, as I said before, and talk to your bank. See your bank. If it's a loan you want, please talk to your bank. And the banks have the wherewithal, we have the liquidity, they have the right capital levels to transact and to do business and to meet your needs, whichever needs they may be.
Elsewhere, lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Godfred Bokbin, has hinted that the losses recorded by some banks due to the domestic debt exchange program could have been worse if not for interventions by the central bank. Now, speaking on Business Focus on Monday, Professor Bokbin indicated that although some multinational banks have provided capital to cater for impairment losses, the major concern is with how the domestic banks will recapitalize.
If we were looking at the market discount rate in the normal sense of it, and if we were to apply that market discount rate, which was more than 44%, right, then the level of losses in present value terms on the books of the banks would have been severe than what is reported. With the foreign banks, I mean, they have a very strong balance sheet from the group bank. And in the case of Stanbic and the others, you see the assurance from the group that they are going to recapitalize their bank. So there's no cause for fear. There should be no reason why we should have a run on those banks. But when it comes to the domestic banks, and if you look at those that have been impacted heavily, CBG and the rest of them have capital adequacy ratio that are very low. And I'm sure that almost all the banks will be going through capital planning process to ensure that those banks or all their banks are adequately capitalized.
Now, Fitch Solutions has predicted that the cedi would stabilize once a formal creditors committee is formed and the International Monetary Fund deal is secured. The research and market firm in its report believes an IMF program will help stabilize the local currency's performance against other major trading currencies. There's more in this report.
According to Fitch, funds from the IMF program will cushion the cedi against the dollar and slow down the rate of depreciation such that by the end of 2023, the cedi will trade at 12 cedis 40 pesos to $1. The performance of the local currency has in the past weeks been volatile despite the central bank's interventions. Last week, the cedi lost about 1.03% week on week against the dollar, closing the week at around 10 cedis 95 pesos to $1.
Now, some stakeholders from Africa NENDA are in Ghana for a peer learning event on best practices in Ghana's financial inclusion from Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System. Well, the event is to fast-track the growth of instant and inclusive payment systems across Africa, which is critical to achieving universal financial inclusion by 2030.
Progress in developing an instant payment solution has become a source of inspiration for other African countries. The visit is to enhance the understanding and knowledge of central banks and switch operators in specific thematic areas.
The story of financial inclusion of Ghana is one that is very inspiring and uplifting, and GIPS has been a cornerstone of that story in facilitating instant payment systems that are inclusive. So we're really leveraging this opportunity to learn more about that journey and offer a platform from the different countries to share and to learn from Ghana.
The General Manager for Technical and Operations for GIPS, Kwajon team, noted that the learning visit would enable participating countries establish relevant networks and contact to foster further expertise sharing.
What we are looking at is increasing the access to the services. We've had a couple of challenges in the last few months, but then we are working with our partners to increase access to the services and then, more importantly, encourage them to communicate and market the solutions in ways that allow the underserved and the underprivileged to also benefit from the service.
The participants will gain valuable insight into GIPS's scheme rules, business model, and use cases.
We are looking forward to learning. We're also looking forward to sharing, because I think the opportunities that are present in West Africa are also opportunities in East Africa and South Africa. And we look forward to taking away a lot of learnings, going back home and attempting to implement them.
Central Bank representatives from Burundi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, Sierra Leone are participating in technical learning and networking sessions as well as field visits.
Elsewhere, skin products manufacturers of Nivea have launched a new improved body enhancing cream. The Radiant and Beauty Advanced Care Body Lotion is enriched with all-in-one care.
All different types of skin rely on the Nivea brand. In a bid to meet the different care requirements, Nivea researchers put in extensive effort to come out with a new product required for different skin types brought about by culture, gender and age.
We are a global brand, but with this launch we are also now adding a local African, a regional flavor to it. So this is now also solidified further with this launch.
With its headquarters in Hamburg, Germany, Nivea works with over 50 institutions around the world to ensure that the products are suitable for all skin types.
And I'm hoping by the end of the night, you'll also pass the amazing message to your sisters, your aunts, your mom, cousins, and everyone out there to just let them know about the amazing product that you have launched in the market.
The new product, according to its researchers, is capable of improving any kind of skin condition within 2 weeks.
We have problems like dry skin, cracky skin, ashy skin, dull skin, and that's what women want to solve. And with this product, you do not have to mix oils with lotion or shea butter with lotion. This product has everything. It has oils, it has vitamins to help your skin grow and to make your skin shine.
Modern skincare Nivea cream was invented some 100 years ago and still serving millions of people all over the world.
That's all for the very latest in the world of business. For more business news stories, do also visit our website. It's www.3news.com.
Time now for the latest in the world of sports with Thierry Nyan. And Thierry, 22 years after the May 9 disaster, reminder that never again should this.
It's rather an unfortunate reminder. We never want to revisit that in any of our sporting disciplines, but of course.
Elsewhere here, Real Madrid is doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, they are. The Lord's work?
Yeah, the Lord's work.
They are winning. I don't know if it's the Lord's work, but we'll bring you updates there as well. May it never happen again in Ghana football. 22 years ago today, Ghanaians witnessed a disastrous turn of events at the Accra Sports Stadium as Hearts of Oak faced Asante Kotoko, leading to over 100 deaths. Yalfo Sulabi recounts the event.
For 22 years, the memories of the May 9 Stadium disaster have lived with people in different ways. The images of 127 bodies piled up after violence broke up in a league game between Accra Hearts of Oak and Kumasi Asante Kotoko has accompanied the darkest tale in Ghana football. Kotoko fans protesting what they claim was an offside call from referee Jacob Wilson Say and his assistants ripped off seats and threw them on the tarmac. The police responded with tear gas, and the ensuing stampede led to what has become Africa's worst stadium disaster. Tensions between Accra Hearts of Oak and Kumasi Asante Kotoko were high at the time. Hearts of Oak were in great form, the best side not just in Ghana but in Africa. Their meeting against Kumasi Asante Kotoko naturally had taken on a bigger meaning, so much so that the identity of the referee was a closely guarded secret until hours before the game. The match went on as scheduled at 5 p.m. that day. Hearts of Oak drew level after Lawrence Ejay had opened the scoring for Kumasi Asante Kotoko. Ishmaelado struck later on to win the game for the Phobians before the home fans at the Accra Sports Stadium. What happened next, the stampede, the people who died, the victims, and the survivors. May it never happen again in our football.